Fantastic. All right. So I'm so excited to have Kristalyn. She is the high vibe author. She writes both fiction and nonfiction, and she's also a metaphysical expert. So today we're going to be chatting about astrology. We might chat about crystals. I don't know. Let's see where this conversation goes. I have a feeling we'll be chatting about a lot of stuff. So Kristalyn, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to have you.
It is a pleasure to be here, and I cannot wait to engage in this conversation, see what comes up in the magic that's bound to happen.
Amazing. So we've been chatting back and forth a little bit over the last few weeks, and we just had a full moon recently. The new moon is coming upon us, I think, next week now. And I also know we just had a bunch of planets go retrograde.
Yes.
So I think that might be a cool place for us to start. Like, what is that? I mean, I think a lot of people have heard of Mercury retrograde. That tends to be like a catchphrase or something that you hear, but we have like Venus and Saturn that have just gone retrograde. Pluto as well. What's the third?
Pluto's been retrograde. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So what?
Jupiter.
And Jupiter. So yeah, what does that really mean? What does retrograde mean? What does it mean energetically for us? And of course, each planet has its own influence, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah,
and I love how aware you already are. So it's so great to be able to speak on this, because retrograde, I'm actually wearing a shirt that my sister-in-law made me. It says, "I'm sorry for what I said during Mercury retrograde." That's because when a planet goes retrograde, what physically appears to be happening is when you look from Earth up into the sky and you follow that light that is the planet, it looks like it stops and literally moves backwards.
Wow.
Now, planets do not actually do that, but from our perspective, because they're going around in a circle and so are we, it all gets tangled up sometimes, and they appear to move backwards on occasion. And Mercury does it about 4 times a year, so that's why it gets the reputation that it does, because it's doing it all the time, and because it rules communication, technology, travel, all those things that we rely so heavily on to connect with each other. So when stuff goes wrong, it feels like Mercury retrograde, because what a retrograde means energetically is a reassessment. So quarterly, you get to do a communication spring cleaning. You get to say, what have I been moving towards? What kind of connections have I been making? All of these things, anything that relates to communication, travel, learning, all of those things, connection in all sorts of ways. Also contracts, which is why they say don't buy a house. It's because you're signing a contract. You're coming to an agreement. Contracts are not necessarily a good idea during a retrograde when you're supposed to reassess, because starting something new is not what you do when you're spring cleaning. You go through what you have, see what you need to keep, and then see what you don't need to keep anymore. That is the smart way to work aligned with a retrograde. And so the best way to understand how to make the most of any retrograde is just to look up, what does that planet rule? Like we said, Mercury is about communication and travel and connection. Venus is about relationships, values, material possessions, finances. So all those things that you keep close to yourself and they all become a part of your security, Venus rules those things. So as Venus now goes into retrograde, you're going to find that you go through your relationships, particularly romantic ones, and you say, what part of this is working and what part of this isn't? Sometimes relationships dissolve and people like to jump there right away, but also sometimes your communication breaks down so that it can get stronger.
Yeah.
So anything that wasn't serving you will go away to make space for something that serves you more.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And actually it makes me think a little bit, because I just got a contract from a literary agent that I'm reviewing right now. I haven't signed yet. And part of me is like, should I wait?
Oh, Mercury is not in retrograde. Go for it.
Okay, so I'm good. Contract-wise, I'm good.
Yes.
But I did recognize, so I had mentioned to you that Venus has been really kind of speaking to me lately. Like when I go outside, like it's the first thing I see in the sky. It's been really bright lately in the last couple of weeks. And I had this experience a few weeks ago when I was just taking out the trash and it was nighttime, and I look up and I'm like, wow, that planet is so bright. And I check, I'm like, yeah, it's Venus. And as I was looking at it, it almost like was giving off like a rainbow aura. Like, and again, it's like your eyes staring at something really bright in the sky. But like I saw, like it almost started looking like forks of lightning and blues and purples like coming off of it. And I was just like, whoa. I was just staring at it for like 5 minutes. My husband came to check on me. I was like, are you okay? I got lost as I was taking out the trash, just staring at Venus. And then you had mentioned to me, because it just kept on calling my attention. You had actually mentioned to me that Venus has a lot to do with our relationship with nature.
Oh, yes.
So I'd love to hear more about that.
Absolutely. So we're in Taurus season right now. And when you think about Taurus, I like to personify Taurus. Taurus and a lot of the earth signs, there's Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn are your earth signs, but Taurus is very earthy. It's when spring comes around again, right? So if you've ever seen Moana, the Disney movie, Tefiti is how I picture earth, right? And Taurus is very much about nature and earth and life coming back into things. Well, Taurus is ruled by Venus. So a lot of those same energies are a part of what Venus brings up for you. And Venus moves more than Taurus does, right? So as Venus is moving around, especially now with the sun in Taurus, amplifying Taurus energy, with Venus doing all the things that Venus is doing right now, including going retrograde. And who knows what is happening in your personal chart with what Venus is doing. It makes absolute sense that the Venus energy is calling to you. And since you're not going to stare at the sun, the Venus energy is going to say, hey, look at this star, because that's the symbolism you need. That's not going to make you go blind.
Yeah. I love that. And one thing that's funny too with Venus is, like, I actually have to say, for the most part throughout this quarantine, my relationship with my husband has been pretty good. You know, like we're tag teaming it with the kids and with like their homeschooling, and the fact that both of us are working full-time from home as well, and you know, just trying to make it all work. But earlier this week, I think it was like Monday, like we were starting to get into it, just like annoying little just little things, right? But I was noticing that these flare-ups were happening, and they hadn't happened for weeks. And then I was like, Venus just went retrograde.
But isn't that great, right? Because it's not you going insane and now you have to blame yourself and now you have to get frustrated at him because you're frustrated and you don't know why. You know, Venus just went retrograde. We're supposed to be doing this right now.
Yeah.
I can love you in spite of what we're going through, and I can handle it with a more objective perspective because I don't have to own it as my baggage. I know it's supposed to be happening. And that's like when it's raining, you know it's supposed to be raining, so you're okay with it.
But that is so huge, because I actually recognized as I was going through some of these, like, just tiffs, really, like I felt my energy, like anger come in, the self-righteousness come in, and then I started feeling myself kind of go down that path of like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so triggered by this? You know, and that place of judging yourself for having a certain reaction when you're like, I should be above reacting. I should be in response. You know what I mean? But
I'm so spiritual.
Yeah. But I actually had these epiphanies of like, okay, you're feeling a lot of energy, you're feeling anger. What do you need right now? And like, it allowed me to move out of self-judgment into a place of, okay, you got triggered, you got angry, come back to a place of recognizing, oh, you know what? Like, you didn't like the way he was treating you and you responded by treating him in a poor way. Like, own that, you know, and just go. And I went over, I was like, listen, I'm sorry, I didn't like the way you were treating me. And how did I respond? By not treating you well. That doesn't help, right? But like, when you let go of that, like, judgment of yourself, as in saying, like, I'm a bad person for not being spiritual enough to rise above a stupid little fight, right? Like, you actually allow yourself to have the epiphanies that those reactions can often create. So I think there's something so empowering about recognizing, like you were saying, that this is not a judgment on you. You're not a bad person for having an angry response. Like, the planets are even pulling you in that way right now. And not to be like, because I'm a big believer in, you know, radical acceptance, radical responsibility, of course, but like recognizing that there are energies that flow towards us that guide us in certain ways, and that our energies are constantly influenced by so many things that surround us, including the push and pull of the planets and stars. I just think that's hugely empowering.
Yeah, I like to relate astrology to weather, because you can look at a meteorologist, right? They'll say it's going to rain on Thursday. You know it's going to rain on Thursday. Does that shatter your life? Or are you going to condemn yourself to, it's going to rain on Thursday, I'm doomed? No, you're just thinking, I may want to wear a sweater and a rain hat on Thursday. And now you know to think about it and plan ahead. And on Thursday, if it doesn't rain, awesome. But if it does, you're going to wear a rain hat. So with Venus in retrograde, the conditions may be that you go through some emotional and some relationship restructuring.
Yeah.
Great. You may not, because of whatever's going on. Maybe you're actually already solid, so you don't need to restructure. Everything is serving you. You get to go through and just move on.
Mm-hmm.
But if it happens, you brought your raincoat, you're ready. You know, it's not, I believe in free will. So I don't think the planets are controlling us. I think they're saying, heads up, this may rub you the wrong way. So that you can say, you know what, I might be irritated today. And I do this at the beginning of every month because I don't want to be dominated daily by overcomplicating things or overanalyzing. So at the beginning of the month, I'll look at my transits for that month and I'll say, hey, honey, this is the roughest day I may have, and just be aware of it. So if I'm weird and I don't catch myself, we know. That way you don't think that you've done something wrong. And we can catch me and say, this was divine timing. This is just how the energy is affecting me today. How can I make the most of it? What am I supposed to be learning?
Yeah.
And it's just been so helpful for communication in my relationships, for growth and confidence in myself. And I like to call astrology, it's your stamp of approval from the divine. It's God's stamp of approval on you, because for as long as the stars and the planets have been up there, they've been moving and doing their thing. And so you have been intended to be alive and born at this moment, at this time, to be this person.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It is, because I think so much of our, society, even in the self-development world, is like, you will be better when you're like this. You know what I mean? Like this desire of like always bettering yourself because where you're at isn't good enough, right? And I think so much of what we're actually looking for is recognition that we are good enough, just as we are, that we came in fully worthy, fully deserving. And I think that's huge, because somehow or another that really just gets beaten out of us throughout our experiences or our upbringing, or just the way our society, ingrains within us how we're supposed to be. And so I think that is just so beautiful. And I know personally, as I've established a more spiritual relationship and kind of connect and commune more with the universe in very intentional ways, being someone who has often sought validation, right? Now I tend to seek validation more from signs in nature. So like for me, it's funny, I was live earlier and I was just having this exact conversation with my guest who I was chatting with, but going for a walk and having an epiphany or an idea come through and then looking down and seeing a feather on the ground, which is one of my signs for like, you're on track, right? Or the other day I was out in my backyard and I was just gathering some herbs and just breathing in the sunlight, and we have nesting turtle doves and nesting hummingbirds in our yard right now, and two of them are we have a nesting dove pair and a little nesting hummingbird inside our pergola, and the hummingbird gets a little aggro sometimes, like, nice face, and this is their second year nesting together, and last year she used to go over to the doves and just like be really annoyed at them the way hummingbirds can be. They're like, This year, I actually saw her go over to the dove and sit on her tail. She went over and just perched right on the tail of the dove, and I cried. I started crying because I got to see it. Was like a 3-second thing, and I was right there, and I got to witness it, and it felt so powerful for me to see that, to be a witness to that it just felt like the universe was talking to me, and I started crying.
I don't blame you. That sounds beautiful. Wow.
So like those are the kinds of validations that I'm learning to seek now that are outside of myself, right? Because when we're constantly seeking external validation, it's soul killing, honestly. I know that's something that I've dealt with as an entrepreneur, as just as a human being. That's something that has been something I've been trying to transcend. And I find that having that relationship with nature really helps me. And I love the way that you're saying, like, having that relationship even with your own chart and with the planets provides that validation as well. So I love that you discussed being able to plan out. Like, I just love the fact that you can look at your chart and go over to your partner and be like, hey, see this time right here? Yeah, just leave me alone then, you know?
Yeah,
Or
this is going to be a nor'easter, so to speak, you know?
I think that's amazing. And I wish I should just do that with my husband, just with my own cycle, and be like, see these 7 days right here? Like,
Yeah.
just go easy on me then, or that
Well,
kind of
and
thing.
isn't it funny that that's partially influenced by the moon?
Oh, for sure. Like, I think more than partially. But I'm wondering, like, because I see that you're using for relationships, how do you use it like, for business or for your own inner work, or even for like intuitive skills? Is there ways to utilize your chart placement in that sense as well?
Oh, absolutely. And the most beautiful thing is there are so many little pieces to a chart, right? You have all the planets, you have all the different points, you have 12 different houses, the sections of the charts like broken up into a pizza, and there's 12 slices. Those are different houses. So each house has a zodiac sign in it. There are 12 signs, and each sign has at least one planet or luminary, as they call them, because the sun and the moon are included, the north node, some asteroids and things like that. Lots of bright stuff that's moving around up there get included in this. And so you have all these little things which each represent something. So like I mentioned with Venus and Taurus, because Venus rules Taurus, they have a lot in common in their energies. So Venus will take Taurus-like energies and maybe sit over in Aries, which combines them. So to me, astrology ends up becoming like a cosmic Mad Libs.
Yeah.
So you have your house, your planet, your aspect, and they each represent something, plug in a sentence, and that's the interpretation. Now, it gets a lot easier once you know how to read the energies of the planets, but that's something that everybody can do. If you look up what Mars means, and then you look up what Aries means, and you say, okay, well, Mars is in Aries, so together they make, Mars actually rules Aries. So it's a lot of drive and a lot of ambition. So that's how I do it. And when you're looking for spiritual growth, there are a couple different places that actually involve your spiritual growth.
Oh, I love
and
that.
every time you look at the chart, you can look at it looking for something and you will find it. So if I'm looking at a chart for my career, I can look at the whole chart and find things all over the place that relate to the section of the chart that's about career, but also the way I communicate is a part of myself that I use in my career. The way I value things is a part of myself that I use in my career. So the rest of the chart relates to career. And so you start with career and then see how everything else influences it. So you can say, this is what your career is going to be like, and this is how you'll like people to communicate with you. This is the kind of manager you would be, that kind of thing.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
Yeah.
And people can do a chart reading with you, right, Kristalyn?
Yeah, they can reach out to me, and I like to talk with them and see what they specifically need. So I like to have that one-on-one before we all just go for it. You know, it's not something where you just buy a chart reading. I want to see how I can serve you. So we have a one-on-one conversation and see if we're a fit to help each other out.
Awesome. And what's your website for those who might be interested in looking into that?
Yeah. So my website, good thing is my name is actually in the little window here. It's KristalynVetovich.com. You can find it through my Instagram page. It's linked there. I know it's not the easiest name to spell, but I am super proud of it.
It's a beautiful name, Kristalyn.
Thank you.
Beautiful name. And as someone who, so my name is spelled like Rachel, but it's actually pronounced Rachael because it's actually the Hebrew pronunciation, which is Rachael, which when I say that, people get like fear in their eyes. So they're like, I can't say that. So I just go by Rachael because it sounds a lot more like Rachael. So you get that whole like, people look at your name and they're like, yeah, you. How you doing?
And it's so cool. I love that that's part of your heritage. For my most recent fiction series, I actually based a lot of the spiritual world in there off of Yiddish and Hebrew tradition.
Oh my gosh.
And I actually went to Jerusalem and Israel and things last year. And one of the reasons why I feel so connected to that energy is because there is a Star of David on my chart.
Oh,
my birth chart, actually, all the alignments between the planets form a Star of David.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and I always loved the Star of David, but to my knowledge, there's no history there of that cultural reference. So I was like, why do I love the Star of David when it has nothing to do with my family history or anything like that? Then I find my chart and my husband's like, hey, that's a Star of David.
Yeah.
That is.
Well, and isn't the Star of David also kind of the Merkaba sign?
It is. It's exactly,
and
it's also, a 2D Merkaba.
Yeah, and it's the heart chakra. It's the
And what it represents is as above, so below, which is the whole point of astrology.
Oh my goodness.
I was born for this.
Amazing. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
I actually lived for a year in Israel when I was 18, in between high school and college. I spent a year at university there in Tel Aviv. And so I haven't been back since then. I should go back at some point. But it's an interesting place. It's intense, energetically intense.
Oh, yes.
Place.
I was at Megiddo. And I was just like, Mom, I can see past the veil. Like, there's so much happening. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I'm actually starting to learn a little bit more about some of the Jewish mysticism. I was raised in a modern Orthodox household. So the way I was raised was very much letter of the law as opposed to spirit of the law. I'm not a religious person, but it was interesting to be raised with a lot of religious doctrine, because in a lot of ways, as most contrast does for us, it helps you to recognize what resonates for you or not, like what is real or true for you or not. And so while I didn't find the divinity in the God I was presented, for me, it was very clear to me that God existed when I was outside in nature. Like that to me was exactly where I tapped into God. So I'm wondering, from the standpoint of astrology and the stars and the other planets, because I see Earth in itself as, everything is an aspect of the divine. We are. Plants, everything, crystal, everything is an aspect of that divine. But for me, it's more when it comes to like the relationship with the earth and just the life-giving qualities and the homeostasis and the different species and the beauty and, just all of it. The way that things are recycled and like nothing's ever really created or destroyed, but just renewed in so many ways. It just, it fuels me. And it's what I see as like God, for lack of a better word. But there's also all these other planets and all these other stars and, the universe in itself, right? So I'm just wondering, like, if you're someone like me who really connects with the earth in a very kind of religious way, how do the other planets factor in to that sense of like divinity? Does that make sense, that question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's beautiful because what you're explaining, as you know, I do a lot of work with Marianne Williamson right now. So I get to hear a lot about A Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
And A Course in Miracles talks about what's real in the real sense,
right,
and what's not really real.
Yes.
And anything that is temporary is considered not real, but you perceive the earth as its infiniteness. It is creation, right? It doesn't get created or destroyed. It is creation. So it is real and constant and eternal in the moment, all those wonderful things. The planets they're just like the sun, right? So just like the sun affects the earth, the other planets are in themselves luminaries. They're lights, they're sources of energy that also send little beams of light to earth and affect it. So where we see the whole individual effect of astrology, it's as within, so without, right? So we are microcosms of in ourselves, and we're reflecting the world. I actually, I made this hashtag when quarantine started, and I call it me, myself, and I am. There's me, this individual, myself, the collective conscious, all of us involved in the planet, the earth, creation. And then I am, our divinity, all in the same thing, right? So me, myself, and I am. And that's because the earth right now, you're hitting something on the head that's happening in astrology, where Uranus, which is often dubbed the wrecking ball of the zodiac, because it loves freedom. It loves humanitarianism. It's about the people, not the structures. And so it comes through and it's just like freedom for all, let freedom ring. And what Uranus is doing right now is it's moving through Taurus. Taurus, our structures, our foundations, our finances, nature. And what was the first thing that we all noticed when we went into quarantine? The earth sighed and the animals in nature came back. And so I like to explain that this whole scenario we find ourselves in, though dire and sometimes scary and so transformative, because change is what really makes us nervous, just because we can't anticipate it so much, but it always leads to something beautiful. This is the earth saying, go to your room,
Yeah.
I need to breathe.
Yes.
And so we did. And when we come back out, the best thing that I've noticed as part of my state has opened in certain areas, not fully, but we're allowed to like go outside. People are going to parks.
Yeah.
They're going to nature. They're saying like, I don't need to go to Kmart or I don't need to go to Target. I need to meet at a picnic.
Yeah.
They're reconnecting with that. So the astrology is saying, hey, right now, nature's making a comeback. And
Good.
it's time to become stewards again. Because what I understood when climate became a thing in politics and I started hearing people on one side saying one thing and the other side saying another thing, to me, what the Bible says, and I was brought up as a traditional kind of Christian upbringing with a lot of spirituality thrown in, as you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
What I know is that we were always just told to be good stewards. And we kind of forgot that when we got really good with industry and industrialization and things like that. And you can see the Himalayas again. People forgot that you were supposed to be able to. Now they know that that's not nature the way it was before. So we're seeing the clearing up of effects that we didn't even realize were happening. So I forgive everybody for that because we didn't realize it was happening. But now we see what could be. We see that there are dolphins in the canals in Venice. We see the Himalayas. We see goats in the streets of certain towns, and it's hilarious. But that nature is part of us. We're connected again. Somehow, I actually did a meditation that makes me think of you. Last year, I did a meditation to connect to the earth.
Yes.
So you go to the energy of earth and you just talk to it. And I said, what do you need from us? And it said, you're hiding from me. You built boxes and you go inside and you think you're not part of this, but I'm there and I'm here and I'm all over the place and you just forgot.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, something's going to happen where we have to remember that we are nature too. The planets are nature. They're not this planet, but they are nature.
Right.
And so are we.
Yes.
And I just think that when I look up in the sky, I'm seeing validation that all the weird things that are happening right now, as uncomfortable as they may be, they're intentional, they're divine, there's purpose behind them. So I don't get caught up in the drama and the politics and the fear. I can see a purpose behind it. And I'm trusting my God and my earth and all the energy and the beauty that I know is coming. And I can see the hope of that and the evidence that even though it seems like everything's falling apart and there's no one taking care of us, this is all being taken care of.
Yeah.
And it's been taken care of. And the earth knows how to take care of us and of itself because we're all the same. So that is my long response to your
I love
question.
that. Thank you. Thank you. I so appreciate that. And I wonder too, because, you know, I try to be a very solution oriented person. And, you know, we, even with some of the amazing things that have happened in quarantine with the reduction in air pollution and with even some of like the lessening of the just constant production and consumption and clear and leaving spaces open so animals can come out. But there's also been, you know, like rolling back of certain environmental regulations during this time. So for me, the big thing is like, okay, so when we come back, right? Like when we are fully back to, I don't want to say
Whatever
normal because
happens.
I really hope that it's not back to normal because I don't think normal was ever really normal. But whatever we come back to, whatever it's going to look like, and we know it is going to be somewhat different, but there's going to be certain things that are similar. Like, is there a way that we can use the planets or astrology to help guide us toward a more desired future? Like we use, especially, I mean, there's an election year coming up, and I mean, politics are politics, but like politics equate to actual on the ground how we live and how we, especially how we treat our planet, which you know, shouldn't have to be said, but I'm going to state like how we treat our planet directly impacts our own health. There's no escaping when the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the foods that we eat come from the planet. So when we're poisoning the water, the air, and the soil, we're poisoning ourselves. There's just you can't get around that. That's just how it is. And yes, our bodies are able to self-heal. It's an amazing thing, just like the earth is able to self-heal. It's glorious. It's meant to be that way, but we have to give it the space and the right conditions to healing, which means feeding yourselves good things, right? Like you can't continue to put toxins into yourself and say, it's okay, I'm going to heal. You know, like you have to provide it the opportunity to heal, just like we're providing Earth right now, this opportunity for restoration and healing as well. So can we utilize the charts and stars to help guide us toward what it is we really want, like whether it's social justice, environmental justice, healthcare? Like we know things can be better than how they've been. We know that. Can we utilize the stars to help us with that?
So the answer to this is actually amazing, because it's yes, and you don't have to. So if you want to be conscious about it and you want to be a little bit more on the proactive side, you absolutely can, and I'll tell you how. But also understand that right now, the Earth is doing what it's going to do. Yeah. It's so much bigger than we are. Yeah. And one of the things I love right now is this all started right in the moment where Saturn, which is structure and government and restriction, and it gets a bad reputation because people don't like rules, but it creates structure and allows for things to be built on a firm foundation. It
and boundaries. Like boundaries are a good thing, right? And that's Saturn.
It's perfect. Yes, it is. You are amazing. It actually conjoined, so it basically eclipsed with Pluto, transformation, change, death and rebirth. So when structure and transformation decide to meet up, it's a party, right? And we called that a paradigm shift. And a lot of astrologers for the past year were like, there's going to be a paradigm shift in January, starting on the 12th of January, like building up to the 12th of January, and at that point and then afterwards, this is going to be huge. There's a lot happening. So we did sort of look ahead. And that's how a lot of us were just like, okay, no one could have seen that this would have happened. We didn't know it was going to look like this. Yeah. But now that we see it, it's like, okay, we knew it was coming, so we can be the first to recover, look ahead, see where we're going, and be ready to teach people when we get there.
Oh, that's amazing.
So if you want to be ready to teach people when we get there, that's the kind of person who will want to look ahead. And when we're looking ahead, what we're seeing is Saturn moved out of Capricorn, which it actually rules. So Capricorn loves structure and stuff like that too. Yeah. But we're going out of Capricorn for a little while into Aquarius. You've heard of the age of Aquarius, right? Yes. So
the age of Aquarius. Sorry.
No, perfect. That's exactly it. You should feel that way. That is the age of Aquarius. It's about humanitarianism. You as a person and me as a person, not them as a group and not relatable to me. And I don't even know you because you're different. No. We're a humanity.
Yeah.
So we're coming into that now. That's where the structure is going to be built. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of repercussions in government, in the structures of our finances and financial things I would attribute more to Uranus and Taurus. But you see things going away that don't need to be there. And that way we have a clear slate to rebuild, because we do need a new environment. Yes. It's time. Things come in seasons. Right? We've learned everything we can learn and everything we were meant to learn from the previous season. Now we're coming into a new one. And it's just like graduation. For a little while after graduation, you're like, okay, cool. What am I doing? And so we're in the, okay, cool, what am I doing phase. And the good news is, it doesn't sound like good news, and it doesn't always feel like good news. But the good news is, right now, we're just about to go into Saturn retrograde. Okay, so Saturn made it into the first degree of Aquarius for a couple of weeks. We got a taste of, what's this new world going to feel like? What's it going to look like? And for the next few weeks, until about July 2nd, Saturn's going to remain in Aquarius. So between now and July, be very conscious of what you feel called to do, because that's the future you. That's the new you, right?
Wow.
And so when Saturn goes back into Capricorn and things get really confusing again, possibly to just really get that one last cough out of the lungs, when it goes back into Capricorn, you will understand what it is you want to be when it goes into Aquarius again in 2021. And then you will be getting so good at it, because Saturn will be in Capricorn, which builds structure and groundedness and education and all this wisdom. So you'll get really good at it. And by the time Saturn comes back around and everybody's looking for these solutions, you'll be the expert.
Oh my God.
ready
I
to teach.
love that. That resonates so deeply with me right now, especially with where I'm at, in
Writing your book.
personal
Yeah.
development in my book and what I'm doing with my business. I'm just starting to look into like developing online courses and
Mm-hmm.
be able to because I've done a lot of in-person workshops, and of course that's going to look very different in our new paradigm. And so I'm looking into more opportunities to teach online. And so yeah, like it just that is exactly where I'm at right now, is in this place of
Yeah.
like, I'm in a new place, I'm learning new things, I'm sharing new things, and I'm excited for what's to come. So that is just, and I love that idea of, like you said, it's like not about becoming a slave to the alignment of the stars. It's about using that knowledge intentionally as almost like a roadmap, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think that is so beautiful and so empowering. And I'm
Well, just like
totally
when
want
you're
to,
planning a wedding. When you
yeah,
plan a wedding, you're trying to pick a date that it's not going to rain, right? So you look into the future, you
totally
take a
rained on my
guess.
wedding day.
It rained on my wedding day. The minute my husband and I said, okay, we're done, it started raining. And I was just like, I'll take it because that's still lucky.
Well, it's lucky to rain on your wedding day. And ours, it actually stopped right before our ceremony, so we were able to do it outside still. And the guest said that when we were actually doing our ceremony, which was like a traditional Jewish ceremony, which has a lot of random things, but they said that the clouds were parting in such a way that the sunbeams, like in Hawaii we call it the kukulanis, like the rays of light, the heavenly holes of light, come through. And so it was like, really, people still tell me it was really magical. So,
Oh,
like,
you
okay.
deserve that.
Aw,
I'm so
thank
glad that
you.
it happened for you.
Everyone does.
That's awesome.
Everyone deserves that. But it was great because we were actually able to have our outdoor wedding right above the beach. And for a second, I looked like we might have to go into an auditorium, which was like, it all worked out. So if anyone out there, rain on your wedding day is actually a good thing.
Totally lucky. But it's the same concept, right? So it's not you saying, I'm allowing planetary energies to govern me. No, it's you saying, hey, I see you up there. Can I cooperate with nature? Can I work along with this? And it's also saying like
co-creation. Yes.
Co-creation. It's you saying, I'm really excited about doing this. Is you can get validation, first of all, to how you're feeling. If you're feeling off on a certain day and you don't know why, I love checking my transits. Here's a fun fact, because I know not everybody's going to be able to check the transits and make absolute sense of them. It takes a couple of years to get used to that. But we all do have access.
When I look at my chart, I'm like, I don't know. Everything's weighted on this side, but that's all I get.
Oh, I love that.
I'm totally going to be booking a session with you, by the way.
That'll be so fun. I can't wait.
I'm so
but if you're going to look at your horoscope, you do want to look at your chart for a hot second, because if you've been reading for your sun sign, which is your zodiac sign, you've been reading it wrong. It actually will be a lot more detailed to you and your chart if you read for what's called the rising sign. So when you look at your chart, it's kind of like a clock, right? There's 12 sections. The line at 9 o'clock and the house that is led to it, I don't know if this is 9 o'clock to you, it might be backwards, but the line that's at 9 o'clock on your chart and the pizza slice that starts at that line going counterclockwise, it'll have a 1 in it. That's your first house. Okay, so you want to look for the 1. That's your rising sign.
Okay.
So read for that, because again, since that's your first house, the astrologer who made this horoscope knows what the rest of your houses are, because he knows number 1, so he knows number 2, 3, 4, and so on through 12.
Wow, it's so much
for
more
your sun sign. My sun sign's in the 7th house. How does he know that?
Yeah.
He doesn't. He's like, it could be any house out there. So when I'm reading a horoscope, I read for Scorpio, because while my sun isn't in Scorpio, at least the rest of the houses are going to be in alignment with that. And my moon is also in Scorpio, which makes me lucky, because the moon is the thing that a daily horoscope really changes with, because it's the thing closest to us. So it moves.
And it changes daily.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's why a horoscope is different every day, because the moon's moved.
Yeah.
Everything else takes a little bit longer than that to actually make a tangible move, or a move that we can feel. So you don't have to read your horoscope every day to get a nice understanding of what kind of energy you're in. But if you want to, it's the same as pulling an oracle card each day. It's what energy am I in today?
Yeah.
It's the same as watching your morning weather report.
Yeah. And I've always been someone who's been drawn to read my horoscopes. Like I remember when my parents used to get the paper and I would just flip over into the comic section and the horoscopes were right there too. And I would always read my horoscope, but that was about the extent that I would take it. Just knowing I'm a Cancer, you know, and go from there. But I definitely want to book a session with you and have you see my chart, because the only thing I notice when I look at my chart is like everything is in the lower kind of the lower left quadrant of it. Like everything's kind of weighted on the left side. And like, I'm sure that means something.
It does actually, and it's beautiful. It means it's actually a sign of really good intuition, and especially in the side of the chart that you seem to be referring to, it's a lot about nature.
Well,
so
that is
go
not
figure.
surprising. That is not surprising at all.
Yeah.
So amazing. So going back to nature, I think it's probably a good place for us to end this too, is with everything going on. I mean, one of the things that with the research I'm doing right now too, and as you were saying, like with being in quarantine and now being allowed to go out, people are you know, some people are like, I want to go get my hair cut, but like most people are like, I want to get outside, I want to get in nature, because nature heals us.
Yes.
Our body's physiological responses to being out in nature is to relieve ourselves of stress and anxiety, get out of that sympathetic nervous system, and come back into the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of us that's more into the rest and restore. When we're running from that sympathetic nervous system, when we're in that fight or flight mode, our immune system stops working. It actually just stops. And so we get sick. So in order for us to naturally boost our immune system, we have to reduce stress. We have to get out of that fight or flight place and come back into a place of the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and restore. And when that happens, our body immediately goes into that place of self-healing. So nature does that for us, and plants do that for us. That's a lot of what my research has been. Like, yes, there's what I call active plant medicine, essential oils, ingesting herbs and infusions, you know, really taking it in. But then there's also the passive plant medicine, which is surrounding yourself with plants.
Yeah.
And the plants releasing oxygen. Some of them are even able to purify air toxins from our air, which our indoor air is 4 times as toxic as our outdoor air. And that's just, it's not because like you're bad. It's just the way, in the different materials we have off gas. That's just how it is. And then they also release negative ions, which also bring up our serotonin levels, which helps reduce our stress and makes us feel better. So there's like that passive plant medicine as well. So I also like to let people know, like, if you're in a place where you're still not able to get out into nature, and I mean, this is a larger issue, like access to nature. I wish that it was more equitable for some, you know, especially those in urban areas. It can be hard to get real access. But there is nature everywhere, even if it's that one tree on your block, you know, just knowing that it's there and recognizing that even just spending time around it and looking at it and thanking it is a way to bring more rest into your life, which boosts your immune system. And then my whole thing is like, bring nature in. You know, like, bring nature into your home so that it can benefit you everywhere. So knowing that nature is part of our health routine. I believe that nature is an integral part of our health and wellness routines. I believe that astrology can also be an integral part of our health and wellness routine. Is there any kind of last suggestion or recommendation that you can leave us with kind of integrating an appreciation or an understanding or even an interest in astrology with kind of the relationship you have with the natural world? Like for me, it's kind of including the planets and like that's outside of the earth as part of my love for nature.
Yes. And so it really, for me, to sort of bring it all down to earth a little bit, it's knowing that everything around you is divine, right? So just as you're thinking, ooh, Saturn's doing this today, you're thinking Saturn is a little divine, which it is, right? It's part of divinity, but so is the tree outside. It's part of nature. in the Course of Miracles, it actually says nothing is greater than anything else. So if that tree outside is as great as the energy of Saturn, I remember one of the most amazing experiences I ever had. I was in Scotland and we had to go up a hill, and we could drive it or there was a walking path. And I got out of the car and I looked into the trees of the walking path and I said, Mom, I have to walk it. The trees need to tell me something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I walked this path, and as I was just walking in nature, opening my mind to what message in this moment do the trees have for me, or what message in this moment does Mercury have for me, where it is on my chart right now, same thing.
Yeah.
I learned something so deep and meaningful and something beyond doubt, because they're proof right there that who you are, what you're feeling, what's around you, it's all okay.
Yeah.
It's all okay. We think that we are responsible for so much, but look how big this is, and look how important you are as a part of it. You can't mess it up.
That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
really beautiful. Because I think sometimes that's what weighs us down, is we look at, you know, all the sorrows in the world. And for some reason, a lot of us, call it empathy, whatever it might be, we take it on. We take it on as if we can take on that sorrow and feel that pain, then we can make it better for other people.
Yeah.
But when we're in pain, we spread pain. You know what I mean? Like, we have to recognize that the best way to make it better is to start with ourselves. And that was a huge thing for me. For a long time, in environmental education, I really ignored my relationship with myself, because I was like, well, I really believe in teaching people about the environment. That's why I'm here. That's all it comes down to. Hold on one second.
Hey, Viva, please turn the volume down, love. Okay, can you turn down just a little bit, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so it's, oh my God, I totally just lost what I was saying. Hello, motherhood.
You were saying how we take things on, and you forgot to take care of yourself.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so for me, the first kind of big spiritual aha thing that the kind of plants brought to me was like, the way you feel matters. You know, if you're going out there and teaching people about like caring for the planet, but you're doing it out of just fear and distrust and like despair, like that matters. You have to come to a place where you recognize the beauty in the world to share the beauty in the world.
Yes.
And that was just really huge for me. It's like when the plants told me and let me know, like, start with yourself. Like, it matters. It really matters.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom used to always say she traveled every week for her job. And so I remember saying one time when a flight attendant was saying, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And I was like, how selfish is that? Put it on the kid first. And mom's like, if you're passed out, you're not putting it on anybody.
Yeah.
You're useless if you've overextended yourself to the point where you can't help someone.
Yeah.
And you're a bad example.
Yes.
It's unfortunate. Like, if you give too much of yourself and you become weak or overextending, you're not telling. If you want, I know we all do, we want the person in front of us to value themselves. We want it so badly we can taste it.
Yeah.
We need to lead by example.
Yeah, that's very true. And for me, I went through a period when my kids were really little where I really lost touch with myself. And that's when the plants came in strong. And that's how I was feeling. I felt like, what do I have to offer these kids when I hate myself right now, you know? But it was good to go through that because it launched me beyond where I had been stuck. And the plants continue to do that for me. They continue to lead me toward like, keep on going, look deeper, connect further. And when I still find myself feeling angered or frustrated or saddened by the state of the world, I also know that I can come back to them to remember what's real. Remember what's real. So I find that fascinating. And I'm sure for you, being able to go to the stars and go to your chart is a big part of coming back to what is real for you as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are plenty of people who be like, that's not real, but it is real. What's more real than the way that the planets are positioned above us? Be real. That's realer than politics. You know?
Yeah, we all wish we knew divine timing, but you can.
Yeah.
To me, it's just a giant clock up there. So we just know when the time is right for something.
Okay, really quick, last thing. What are some good things to understand that? Like, what's a good tip for like, when is the right time to launch something, or the right time to put out that query to someone, a mentor that you're really kind of looking to, connect with, or that's cool.
So we're going to go with the easiest thing, which you will always be able to know, regardless of how deep you are into astrology. We're going to go by the moon.
Okay.
New moons are all about manifesting, starting something new, visualizing where you want to go in the next month or the next 6 months, because the moon goes into each signs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Planting. Yeah.
Full moons are when you want to be like, okay, let it go. It's all about shedding, right? You're shining a light and purifying with that light. That's why you put your crystals in the moonlight, right? Because you're cleansing them. Cleanse yourself too. So with a new moon, you're manifesting, you're starting something new, you're sending that query, because hopefully in the next 28 days or the next 6 months or whatever moon cycle we're in, like eclipse cycles, don't even get me started, right? But
another interview.
Yeah, whatever cycle we're going by, because I know queries take a long time sometimes. I get it. You want to start new things, new moon. You want to finish things or cleanse things or just let something go, full moon.
Love that. And I want to state also, as someone who has more recently in the last year started to like really honor the moon cycles and even do like new moon circles and full moon circles, it's really amazing how when you start letting that energy in, naturally things start lining up with the moon cycles. Like I've just noticed since the period of time that I started really taking part in like moon circles or doing certain like new moon or full moon rituals, things naturally line up in my life with the moon cycles. Like new opportunities all of a sudden present with the new moon, or at the full moon I've gotten like a really good email that I've been waiting on, or like it's just these things like just naturally align, and it's really, like you were saying, it gives you that validation of like, I'm on the right track. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm always where I'm supposed to be.
And it's funny, that to me is the culmination of the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten, which I've worked with Marianne Williamson, I've worked with Angela Lauria, I've met Chip Coffey, all these wonderful, incredible people. I've met Kevin Sorbo. But the best piece of advice I ever got was get out of your own way. And it came from my dad. And what I've realized is astrology and that alignment and that working along with divine timing, working in alignment with the energy, gets me out of my own way. That is what it means.
And that's amazing. When you find something like that as a tool, like that is just really incredible, because we are definitely our own stop signs most of the time. Yeah, for sure. Well, Kristalyn, this was an awesome conversation.
So worth the wait.
I know, totally. Now I just need to figure out how to get this onto there. I'm sure I'll figure it out. But this was just so informative, and I'm like really excited by it as well.
Me too.
I think it helps gain a sense of just faith and a sense of like there's something bigger at play, and just that reminder that like we're gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay.
You are as important as everything.
Yes, you are as important as everything, which I think is also kind of nice, because it's almost like this, and in some ways this virus has been this great unifier, but like knowing that everything's importance is equal, it just takes a weight off, like, no need to prove, no need to always have to like feel like you're having to prove your truth or your worth or anything like that, which is really incredible. So this was awesome. I'm definitely gonna reach out to do a little reading with you. I'd love to learn more about my chart, because I have looked at my chart and it is complicated. It is very complicated. So having someone who knows how to read it, and then just like the conversation and the fact that you also really talk with people about like, where are you at in your life? What kind of questions are you even asking right now? I think that's a big part of it. So I am so grateful that you took the time to do this. Anything that you would like to share, like how people can find you, any kind of events you have coming up, any books coming out soon that you'd love to share with us?
Absolutely. So you can find me at The Real Kristalyn on Instagram. That's where I'm most active and I most love hanging out with people. My website is KristalynVetovich.com. You'll find it on Instagram. It's a lot easier that way. But I do have a new book that we'll be releasing sometime in September about how to write a high vibe fiction story. So if you're interested in that kind of thing and you'd like to be a beta reader, I'd be happy to give a free copy of the book to get
Ooh,
feedback and help with that kind of thing. Yeah. And I have a bunch of high vibe fiction that is welcoming to anybody who feels like they would enjoy reading it. So I just love friends and I love making people feel good. And I just, as many people as I can connect with, I just want to tell you how awesome you are.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And you do fantasy, right? You write like kind of fantasy style books? Okay, I love that.
Yeah, dragons and crystals and magic, oh my.
Oh, love it, love it. I love those kind of books when I was a kid too. And Kristalyn's been helping me with some recommendations for my daughter right now as well. So I would love to beta test. Plus, I'm gonna get some of your books for me to read, the fiction books to read, and then pass on to my daughter as well.
Wonderful.
I'm really excited. And to find your books, what's the best place to find your books?
They're on Amazon. So they're actually anywhere online that books are sold fantastically.
Yeah.
And you can find them on my website and then that links you everywhere you need to go.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. What a blessing. So much information that Kristalyn provided to us. If anyone is interested in learning more about their chart, learning more about astrology, learning more about your rising sign and your sun sign and like all the different houses, because it's so much more than our horoscope, right?
Yeah, all the intricate things that make you you.
Yeah, which is beautiful. And the fact that everyone is unique. And like, I just love that. It just reminds me of the whole, like, we are the entire ocean and a single drop at the same time. I love it. So reach out to Kristalyn. She has amazing services there. And thank you all for watching and for joining in. And this was so fun. And I'm going to stop the recording.